Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is another suggested case, and it is the suggested case of 11-year-old murderer Mary Bell. This case was actually suggested by Natasha, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have. I'd just like to let you know, I mean no disrespect to anyone I'm going to talk about today. I've simply gathered the information off the internet and compiled it into a video for educational purposes. Mary Flora Bell was born on the 26th of May in 1957 to her mother Betty. There's not really too much known about her actual biological father. For many years it was thought to be Billy Bell. However, it's never really been confirmed because Billy actually married her mother while she was still a child, so he still could have been the father, or he may not have been. It's just not clear. Anyway, they all lived in Scotswood in Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. Now, Mary really didn't have a good childhood as she was growing up. And it was strongly suggested by other family members that Betty, her mother, had actually tried to kill her on more than one occasion. So she tried to kill her own daughter when she was a bit younger. She tried making it look accidental by their account. So Mary actually fell from a very high window, and not only that, she also accidentally ate sleeping pills. Now, it was very widely believed that none of these were accidental, it was Betty. One witness even actually saw Betty giving Mary pills as sweets, so that just goes to show how bad it was. Also, Mary did claim that she suffered sexual abuse from being a very young age, from the age of 4. Her mother forced her to do sexual acts with men. And by all accounts, the Bell home was very squalid, it was very dirty and filthy. And it wasn't very well furnished, there was barely any furniture, things like that. Now, obviously, if the family is on the poorer side, they're not going to be able to afford things like that, so don't think that I'm getting at that sense of it. It was just trying to get an idea of the kind of background that Mary grew up in. At school, Mary was very much known as the disruptive pupil, this chronic liar who would often say things in school like her desire to actually hurt people. It was also thought that Mary actually did suffer brain damage when she fell through this window, and they thought that was the cause, but it was later actually attributed to her mother's abuse. The damage was to her prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's associated with voluntary movement and decision making. So as I said, Mary had a very difficult childhood, she suffered abuse, and she potentially had brain damage as a result of it that could affect her decision making. On the 11th of May in 1968, two girls were playing together. One was Mary Bell and one was Norma Bell. Now, there's no relation between the pair, they just had the same surname. And they were playing with a little 3-year-old boy on top of a Newcastle air raid shelter. Now, this boy apparently fell and he severely injured himself, but the incident was written off as accidental. Now, I can't tell you whether this incident was accidental because you will find out soon enough that Mary did go on to kill 2 little children. So whether one of them pushed this boy, I don't know. He may have fell, he may have been pushed, who knows. I'm obviously not going to put the blame on Mary or Norma because we don't know, it could have been an accident. On the 12th of May, the mothers of 3 young girls actually informed the police that Mary had attacked and actually choked their children. She was interviewed by the police and she was kind of given a lecture, but no charges were actually filed against her. On the 25th of May in 1968, a body of a little 4-year-old boy was actually found in a derelict house on 85 St Margaret's Road by 2 boys that were playing by the area. Now, this little boy's name was Martin Brown, and his body was found in an upstairs room. When the authorities got there, they realised that there was no obvious cause of death, and they kind of just assumed that it was accidental, that they found a pill bottle close by, and they presumed that this little boy had gone in the building, he had taken these pills and unfortunately passed away due to that. So the very next day, Norma Bell's father actually caught Mary trying to choke his 11-year-old daughter. By all accounts, he slapped her and then he sent her on her way home. Later that day, a local nursery school was actually vandalised. And police discovered notes that were full of profanity. They said things like, "F off, we murder, watch out," and "We did murder Martin Brown." Four days later, Mary then appeared at the Browns' home asking to see Martin. Mary did actually know that he had died, and it was like she was trying to just pour salt in the wound, because her grieving mother, it had literally been 4 days, his grieving mother was devastated, obviously you would be, and Mary just went round to kind of dredge up the feelings again. And she even actually said, "Oh, I know he's dead, I just wanted to see him in his coffin." I can't even imagine how that mother must have felt when Mary was at a door saying things like that. Oh, it must have been so traumatic. Then 2 months went by and a little boy called Brian Howe went missing. An immediate search was mounted straight away, and Mary Bell actually told Brian's sister that he might be playing on this heap of concrete blocks that had been dumped near a vacant lot. And on the 31st of July in 1968, that's actually where he was discovered. It was just among the slabs just off Scots Road, and he was discovered all right, but he was dead. He had unfortunately been brutally murdered. He had been mutilated. He was 3 years old and he was the victim of manual strangulation. His legs and his stomach had been cut with a razor and a pair of scissors that police did actually recover at the scene. He had this M carved into his stomach, and some of his hair had actually been cut off like some sort of trophy. This was when the body was taken for autopsy, and the medical examiner actually suggested that the murderer may be a child because of the imprints on how hard the cuts were made. They were made very softly with not much force, as if a child would, because they wouldn't be able to because they wasn't that strong. The community, rightly so, was absolutely completely shocked, and the police began looking into the child murder aspects and began interviewing children. I believe they ended up questioning about 1,200 children, of which they found 2 that were acting very, very strangely, very suspiciously, and rather odd. One girl was 13-year-old Norma Bell, and the other was 11-year-old Mary Bell. They questioned them several times, of which they actually changed their story 2 times. So as they were being questioned, Norma seemed to be smiling. She seemed to be excited over the murders, just as if it was one big joke for her. 2 little boys had lost their lives, and she was thinking it was some sort of joke. On the other hand, Mary was being very evasive, and she kind of came up with the thing that she'd seen an 8-year-old boy with Brian that had been playing around him with a pair of scissors. So she was trying to sort of give them a person of interest, another little boy, trying to push the interest off her. Not only that, on Brian's funeral day, she was actually seen outside by a detective rubbing her hands together and laughing outside of Brian's family home. They went to question Norma once more, and that was when she actually revealed quite a lot about his murder. She went on to say that Mary had told Norma that she killed him. She had killed Brian. She then took Norma up to the boarded up house to show Norma his body, where she said that she had squeezed his neck and strangled him, and that she actually enjoyed it. Norma gave out more information that would directly implicate Mary, but she still would not admit to it. Instead, Mary blamed it on Norma. So Norma was blaming it on Mary, Mary was blaming it on Norma. But Mary did say that she was there at the time, which is what they were both saying. They were both saying that they were there. However, they weren't the one that actually killed him, it was the other one. Both of the girls, regardless, were arrested and charged for murder. So they went to trial, and it came out about the nursery that was vandalised and burgled. Some school supplies had actually been stolen, along with some cleaning supplies. There was also other children that had testimonies that heard Mary screaming, "I am a murderer," pointing to Brian's house, and stating, "That's where I killed." As she was waiting for a trial to begin, she would also say things like to the guards, "I like hurting things that can't fight back." At her trial at the Moot Hall on the 17th of December in 1968, Mary was very confident and very self-possessed. Both girls did later admit to breaking into the school and writing the notes that they found there, the ones full of profanity, and claiming that they did murder Martin Brown. After 9 days of evidence, Norma, who had appeared confused and in awe over all the proceedings, was actually found not guilty. Mary was, because of diminished responsibility, found guilty of manslaughter for Martin Brown and Brian Howe and was sentenced to life imprisonment. It did actually come out that Mary was the sole perpetrator in Martin Brown's murder and that both of the girls were actually involved in Brian's murder. Like I said, they just blamed each other for the killing, but they both did return to kind of mutilate his body and carve the M into his body. After spending 8 years in offenders institutes, Mary Bell was actually transferred to Moore Court Open Prison, where she actually escaped with 2 boys in 1977. They were at large for only 2 days before they were caught. And she was released in 1980 with this new identity. She was 23 years old and she was given this new identity so that she could start a new life. In 1984, she went on to have a daughter. And initially, it was actually speculated as to whether Mary should be able to keep her daughter because obviously she'd killed 2 children. But they did in fact allow it. So Mary was allowed to keep her daughter, but she never really let her know about her past. In 1998, a biography came out called Cries Unheard, The Story of Mary Bell. It was published, and there was kind of an uproar with the press when it was actually discovered that Mary had been paid for this story. Her daughter began learning about her mother's past. On the 21st of May in 2003, Mary went to court and she was granted a court order protecting her and the identity of her daughter, which would also extend to her granddaughter. Mary Bell is reportedly alive to this day, but she hides away from the public eye. From such a young age, she was dubbed as a child killer, and she was in the spotlight for many years. So it's no wonder really that she now hides away from it. Mary has served a sentence and she now lives in private with a new identity with her family. I find cases like this really shocking because you never really expect a child of such a young age to commit crimes like this, that they're even capable of it. It's just awful to even think that. Whether Mary's brain damage that she suffered had effects, like I said, it affects decision making, whether that's what happened in Mary's case, I don't know. That's for you guys to make your mind up on what you guys think. But yeah, if you have any more suggestions that you'd like me to look into, please do let me know. I'll look into them for you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of content and you want to see more. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the child killer Mary Bell. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!